Good morning, children. Welcome to today's social science class. Today, I'm going to explain about a closer look of the Cholas. So, we are going to see about the Cholas in detail. So, let us start our class. A closer look the Cholas. Children, open your textbook and take page number 22. This is a Chola kingdom and its neighbors. From Urayu to Tanjavur. How did Cholas rise to power? A minor chiefly family known as the Muttarayar held power in the Kaveri Delta. They were subordinate to the Pallava kings of Kanchipuram, Vijayala, who belonged to the ancient chiefly family of the Cholas from Urayur, captured the delta from the Muttarayar in the middle of the 9th century. He built the town of Tanjavur and a temple for goddess Nishumbasudini there. The successors of Vijayala conquered neighboring regions and the kingdoms grew in size and power. The Pandyan and the Pallava territories to the south and north were made part of this kingdom. Rajaraja first, considered the most powerful Chola ruler, became king in 985 and expanded control over most of these areas. He also recognized the administration of the empire. Rajaraja's son Rajendra first continued his policies and even raided the Ganga Valley, Sri Lanka, and countries of South Asia, developing a navy for this expedition. Splendid temples and bronze sculptures. The big temples of Tanjavur and Gangaikonda Cholapuram, built by Rajaraja and Rajendra, are architectural and sculptural marvels. Figure 3 in your textbook is the temple at Gangaikonda Cholapuram. Notice the way in which the roof tapers also took at the elaborate stone sculptures used to decorate the outer walls. Chola temples often become the nucleus of settlements which grew around them. These were centers of craft production. The produce of this land went into maintaining all the specialists who worked at temple and very often lived near it. Priests, grand makers, cooks, sweepers, musicians, dancers, etc. In other words, temples were not only places of worship, they were the hub of economic, social, and cultural life as well. Among us, the crafts associated with temples, the making of bronze images was the most distinctive. Chola bronze images are considered among us the finest in the world. While most images were of deities, sometimes images were made up of devotees as well. The figure 4, a Chola bronze sculpture, notice how carefully it is decorated. Agriculture and irrigation. Many of the achievements of the Cholas were made possible through new developments in agriculture. Look at map 2 again. Notice that the river Kaveri branches off into several small channels before emptying into the Bay of Bengal. These channels overflow frequently, depositing fertile soil on their banks. Water from the channels also provide the necessary moisture for agriculture, particularly the cultivation of rice. Although agriculture had developed earlier in other parts of Tamil Nadu, it was only from the 5th or 6th century that this area was opened up for large scale cultivation. Forests had to be cleared in some regions. Land had to be leveled in other areas. In the delta region, embankments had to be built to prevent flooding, and canals had to be constructed to carry water to the fields. In many areas, two crops were grown in a year. In many cases, it was necessary to water crops artificially. A variety of methods were used for irrigation. In some areas, wells were dug. In other places, huge tanks were constructed to collect rainwater. Figure 5, a 9th century sluice gate in Tamil Nadu. It regulated the overflow of water from a tank into the channels that irrigated the fields. A sluice gate is traditionally a wood or metal barrier which is commonly used to control water levels and flow rates in rivers and canals. The administration of the empire. How was the administration organized? Settlements of peasants, known as ul, become prosperous with the spread of irrigation agriculture. Groups of such villages formed large units called Nadu. The village council and the Nadu performed several administrative functions, including dispensing justice and collecting taxes. Rich peasants of the Vellala caste exercised considerable control over the affairs of the Nadu under the supervision of the central Chola government. The Chola kings gave some rich landowners title like Muvenda Velan, a Velan or peasant serving three kings, Arrear, chief, etc., as markers of respect and entrusted them with important office of the state at the center. Types of land. Chola inscriptions mention several categories of land. Vellanvangi, land of non-Brahmin peasants' properties. Brahmadeya, the land gifted to Brahmanas. Shalabhoga, land for the maintenance of school. Devadana or Tirunamattukani, land gifted to temples. Pallichandam, land donated to Jaina instructions. We have seen that Brahmanas often received land grants or Brahmadaya. As a result, a large number of Brahmana settlements emerged in the Kaveri Valley as in other parts of South India. Each Brahmadaya was looked after by an assembly or sabha of prominent Brahmanas landlords. These assemblies worked very efficiently. Their decisions were recorded in detail in inscriptions, often on the stone walls of temples. Associations of traders known as nagarams also occasionally performed administrative functions in towns. Inscriptions from Uttarameru in Chengalpettu district, Tamil Nadu, provide details of the way in which the Sabha was organized. The Sabha had separate committees to look after irrigation works, gardens, temples, etc. Names of these eligible to be members of these committees were written on small tickets of palm leaf. These tickets were put into an earthenware pot from which a young boy was asked to take out these tickets one by one for each committee. Inscriptions and text. Who could be a member of Sabha? The Uttaramur inscription lays down. All those who wish to become member of the Sabha should be owner of land from which land revenue is collected. They should have their own homes. They should be between 35 and 70 years of age. They should have knowledge of the Vedas. They should be well versed in administrative matters and honest. If anyone has been a member of any committee in the last 3 years, he cannot become a member of another committee. Anyone who has not submitted his accounts and those of his relatives cannot conduct the elections. Okay, children, let us wind up today's class. And this chapter is also over. The chapter named New Kings and Kingdoms. From this chapter, we discuss many important points about the new dynasties, important dynasties in between 7th and 12th century. There were 5 dynasties. Then about the new kings and the land grants and about the Brahmadeya, war for wealth, about the Chola temples and agriculture and administration of the Chola temples also we discussed today. So let us wind up today's class. Now you have to
read this chapter many times and underline important points and do given marks. Okay, thank you. Thank you to listening my class.